Hi friends, welcome to Crack Grade B. In this lecture, we are going to study one of the important topic for your RBI, SEBI and NABARD examinations, that is fiscal policy. And why this topic is important? Because all these examinations, when you see the ESI topic, the ESI syllabus covers a major portion from the budget, right? And when I say budget, I mean fiscal policy, right? So in this lecture, we are not going to study fiscal policy in depth, okay? So I am going to just introduce you with what is fiscal policy. So what I am going to do in this lecture is I am going to introduce what fiscal policy is, and we are going to see some current affairs related to fiscal policy. So that is the reason we are here with this topic. So if you are someone who already knows what fiscal policy is, be with me till the end of this lecture. This lecture would help you in revision, number one. Number two, if you are someone who doesn't know what fiscal policy is, then this would be the perfect lecture to begin with, right? Let's begin with the outline of the lecture. So outline is, I have divided the entire lecture in total of 5 sections, right? First, we are going to see what is fiscal policy in terms of few questions. Then we will see how fiscal policy works, right? Then we are going to see types of fiscal policy. Next, we are going to see tools of fiscal policy. Then we are going to see what is the fiscal position of this policy currently in India, right? So there were some data that were released last week. So we are going to take that data, we are going to decode that data, and we are going to understand what current position is, right? But before we do that, we should know what fiscal policy is. That is what we are going to learn in this lecture. First thing, we are going to learn fiscal policy by asking few questions, right? Because when we learn in terms of questions, we actually clear our confusion, right? So what is fiscal policy? First, we are going to see in this parameter what is fiscal policy. Then we are going to understand who makes this policy. Then we are going to understand why fiscal policy is required. Then we will see how it is made and implemented, right? So let's begin with what is fiscal policy. So see, fiscal policy is a term used to describe the action taken to influence the economy, right? Can you see? Action taken to influence the economy. So what is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is the term used to describe action taken to influence the economy. So this is the keyword that I have highlighted, right? Next, let's see who is this fiscal policy related to, or who in India implements or manages the fiscal policy, right? So let's modify that definition. Fiscal policy is the term used to describe the action by the government to influence the economy. So who it is? It's by the government to influence the economy. So I hope you got the answer. Who? It's government, right? Let's see what's next. So next is why. Why is fiscal policy required in the first place? So answer to this why would be to keep the wheels of economy running. So let us read the entire thing. Fiscal policy is the term used to describe the action taken by the government to influence an economy and keep the wheels of economy running. So I hope you got the answer. To keep the wheels of economy running. Next, how? How do we do that? Okay, let's see. So the government does it by purchasing products and services from business and collecting taxes. Do you really think is it so simple? We have covered the entire fiscal policy. I'm very sorry. I have covered the entire fiscal policy by this few questions. Do you really think that's easy? Absolutely, it's not that easy. Let us decode it further. So by this we have completed our first section. Now we will move to the next section, how fiscal policy works. Let's begin. So see, let us take a timeline, right? Let us take a timeline and let us understand how this policy works. So if you see, so it's a curvy shape, it's going up, it's coming down and so on. So this is known as oscillating pattern. Why it is known as? This is known as oscillating pattern. What do we mean by that? The pattern is often called the business or economic cycle, right? So you will have to remember this. Oscillating pattern is also called as business or economic cycle, right? Next, let's understand what's oscillating pattern. Now you have seen this graph, this one time going up, coming down, going up, coming down and so on. This continues. So there are four phenomena happening. Number one, we can see an expand. Number two, there is a peak. Number three, there is a contract. Number four, it's throw, right? So these are the four phenomena that you can see in oscillating pattern. Now how do we identify where is expand, where is peak, where is contract and where is throw? Let's see in the next slide. So these are the peaks. These are the peaks and these are the expands, right? So the moment it's going up, it's expand, and the moment it has reached its maximum level, right? So this is maximum level. Maximum level, and the moment it has reached its maximum level is known as peak, okay? And the expand, the moment it is going up, okay? So the speed at which it is going up is known as expand, right? So the economy is expanding, and the moment it reaches at its peak, means once it reaches there, it will start to come down, right? It won't cross that number, and that number is known as peak. I hope you got this, right? Let's see next slide. So let's see next. The next is when an economy is experiencing growth, expanding employment rates and consumer income are generally high, business profits are high, investors are happy, and the population spends more on luxury and non-essential items. So this is the reason, right? This is the region where the economy is experiencing what? Economy is experiencing growth. And if we go by the definition, what it says, when the economy is going from this stage, right, means the economy is on the trajectory of growth, the trajectory of going up in numbers, then what happens? Employment rates and consumers income are generally higher. More and more people are getting employed at that time. Consumers incomes are high at that time. Number two. So this is number one, this is number two. The third one is business are in profit. So most of the business, and or you can correlate it as all of the business are in profit during this growth period, right? So this is the third one. So investors are happy. Obviously business are in profit, the investor would be happy, and the population spends more on luxury and non-necessity items. Now see, it does mean that people have more and more money in their hand. Very few people are jobless. More and more people are into job. Business are into profit. So they may be giving good salary. They may be giving the dividends to the employee, dividends to the shareholder. So by this, everyone in the economy is enjoying this boom period of the economy in terms of monetary value that they have, right? So people spends more on luxury and on non-necessity items, okay? Now I hope you got this. Now let us move further in our lecture and understand the next phase, that is contract and thorough. So what is the? So the moment it reaches at peak, right? So this is the peak and it will start to fall and come at this level. So the entire this level is known as contract, right? It will go down, and the moment it reaches down, the maximum down, okay, the maximum down it could go, and it will start to peak. So this is known as thorough, or the economy is starting to grow. The economy is starting to grow. I hope this is clear. So what if I say that, you know, from this point to from this point, you can see it's coming down, right? And from this point to this point, you can see it is growing. So this can also be termed as growth. Economy, if we take this as a base, the economy is growing from here to there, right? So I hope you understood what is expansion, what is growth, what is contraction, and what is thorough. I hope this is clear, the oscillating pattern. Now let us move further in our lecture and see the definition. So what happens? When the economy contracts, investors begin to turn capital preservation strategies, right? So this is number 1. Businesses start cutting expenses. This is number 2. And unemployment tend to rise. This is number 3. Consumers generally have less income and begin to save more than they spend. This is number 4. Now see, the cycle begins. So whatever people doing business, they are getting into the mode of preserving the cash that they have, or preserving the capital that they have for the future adversaries, right? So when this happens, the hiring comes down. So the moment hiring comes down, the unemployment rises. So when the unemployment rises, money in the hands of people comes down, and when the money in the hands of the people comes down, you can see that the economy is going down. On the other hand, when the business are not in profit, then they tend to give less salary or maybe no dividend and something like that. So I hope this is clear. Let's move further and see the third one, types of fiscal policy. We have completed the first one, we have also completed the second one. Now let us see the next one, that is types of fiscal policy. Let's begin. So before we get into the types, let us understand with the help of an example. Let us consider the situation where the unemployment rate in the economy is high, number 1, right? And the second one being there is a high inflation in the economy. The third one being there is an economic slowdown. The fourth one being expenses cut. So what is expenses cut? I hope you got all these 3, but this 4, what is expenses cut? Where people or business in the economy do not want to spend on necessities and maybe luxury goods, right? But see, don't get confused between what is necessity and what is essential, right? Essentials are something which you need to survive, irrespective of income level, you need that, right? So expenses cut, so people in the economy or business in the economy will reduce their spend on some luxury or maybe all luxury goods and some necessities good, right? Next we see capital preservation. Obviously if there is an expense cut, that means that they are saving the money, okay? So more or less you will find that every parameters are interconnected. So let's not discuss that. Let us only consider this situation and let us think if this is the situation in the economy, right? So why I'm asking you to think every time? Just because your phase 2 is no more the objective paper, right? If that have been an objective paper, the way we are studying would have been different. Now since we have where we need to write things, right? So you need to understand few things above basic, and you need to get deep into the concepts, and you need to think so that you can write a beautiful answer. Let's see what's need to be done when you see this kind of situation in the economy. Government should put money into the people hand. Government should infuse or inject money into the economy. So let's not talk about what RBI does, right? So we are discussing fiscal policy. We will not talk about anything about RBI here. So what government can do? Government can put money into the hand of people through subsidy, right? Subsidy in few of the selected goods. Government can run welfare programs. So there are many Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana and Atmanirbhar Bharat Yojana. So there are many yojanas going on. So what are they? Those are welfare program. So through that, government tries to infuse money into the economy, right? So that the economy gets a boost. Then infrastructure projects. So see what happens when government builds road, government builds big highways, pools. What happens there? How does that helps economy? Now see, if government is building a road, right? So the first thing, it will boost to one of the core sector, that is manufacturing. How? Government will need cement, government will need some capital goods, everything on the first hand. Second hand, there would be many people who would be employed to build that road, job creation. So that is how government tries to infuse or inject liquidity in the economy through this measure when there is a situation like this, right? So, and government can also bring out some notification for the government job, so that when the unemployment rate is high, so there should be few recruitment through which some eligible unemployed people get into the mainstream job, and when they get into the job, they have the money in terms of salary, they spend, that helps economy grow, right? So it's a cycle. Then let's move further and understand what basically government should increase spending. Keywords: increase spending, which will in turn put more money back into the economy, right? Which increases demand for products and services. And once government succeeds to build the demand for the goods and service, the economy starts to rise, because who will buy this? And when will demand come? The demand will only come when people will have money. So people have the money at the first place, then if demand is built up, then from here the actual goods and service get into the production and then get into the market, and this continues, right? So this is an economic cycle we need to understand. Now let's see the relation. What kind of relation? The reciprocating relation. If this is the situation in the economy, the government should spend more and more, means spending should go up, whereas the taxes should come down. So you see the inverse relationship. Why the taxes should come down? Because taxes are two: direct tax, indirect tax, right? Direct tax is directly taken out from my own income, personal disposable income. It is taken from my personal disposable income. Then what is indirect tax? Indirect tax are taken from all the goods and services that I am using in my daily life, right? So I am paying a bit of GST, I am paying a bit of VAT in petroleum products. In this way I am contributing to the indirect taxes of the government. So if government wants me to spend more in the economy, what government should do in terms of taxes? It should reduce the taxes, so that when I let's say buy a thing of 5 rupees and if I pay 1 rupees tax towards it, when the taxes comes down by 50 paisa, let's suppose, then I will only have to pay 4.50 rupees. So what I am saving? 50 paisa. What will I do with this 50 paisa? I will spend, right? So this is the cycle. So when the situation in the economy is something like this, so government should do all these things, and all these are what? These are government spending, right? And on the other hand, when the government start to spend, government should also decrease the taxes, right? So that the personal income at disposal in the hands of people goes up by this measure. So I hope this is clear, and now we have understood the entire thing, right? But we have still not seen what this situation is called. So this situation is called expansionary fiscal policy. What is expansion? Look, expansion is, I am folding my hands right now, right? This is expansion. So what government needs to do? Government needs to expand its hand and spend more and more. Connect the things, right? This is expansion. Okay? Expansion means government should expand its hands and spend from all the departments so that money reaches out to the economy. The liquidity should increase. So this is known as expansionary fiscal policy, right? So what is the opposite of this? Let us decode it right away. Now let me give you an example before we proceed to see the opposite. So you have seen that in May 2020 the Prime Minister came up and he gave up a yojana called Atmanirbhar Bharat Yojana, where he declared approximately a package of 20 lakh crore, right? So what was that? It was huge government spending. Why? Because when the corona came, the first phase lockdown, the economy faced a recessionary cycle. So to overcome that downfall in the economy, the government came up with this stimulus, right? So this is also known as a stimulus, where government spends heavily, maybe on yojana, maybe on direct benefit transfer. Yes, if you hear this speech of the Prime Minister, you will find that yes, the Prime Minister has in many terms tried to transfer the benefit directly to the accounts of people. So that is known as DBT, right? So by this we have understood what is expansionary fiscal policy. So I hope there is no doubt. If there is any doubt, I would request you to reverse the video and watch it once again, okay, before proceeding further. So let's see what's next. So next is the opposite of expansionary fiscal policy, but again let us consider some situations, right? So it helps us build the concept. So we are not learning, actually we are building the concept. So that is why examples are important. Let us consider a situation where markets are into bubbles. So what is market bubble? First of all, what is a bubble? Many of us have played it when we were very young, right? What is a bubble? You see a big structure, right? It's shiny, it looks good. If you touch it, it goes away. Exactly, that is a bubble. Means from the distance you would see everything is fine, right? Everything is fine, but when you go closer to it, when you try to touch it, it goes away. So that is known as market bubble. Irrational exuberance. What is irrational exuberance? So this is an important financial term, I would say. Irrational exuberance means where an investor, right, is agreeing to pay for an asset much higher than its valuation. You're getting my point? Where an investor is willing to pay much higher price than its actual valuation, right? It's as simple as that. You are buying a Baleno in the price of an maybe Audi A3, right? So the premium you are paying for a much less valued asset. So that is known as irrational exuberance. Then optimum unemployment level. So what is this? So this sounds confusing, right? So when an economy is flourished with no employment, right? What is the problem then? Where everyone has the job, means everyone is under the cycle of prosperity. Where an economy should not have optimum level of employment. I mean, all the eligible people should not be into the job. If that is so, then new businesses or maybe the current businesses who are looking for project expansion, they may not find people. Again, it will not help economy to grow. Have you got it? If not, let me repeat in Hindi. ये एक ऐसा सिचुएशन है जहाँ पे अगर इकोनॉमी में हर कोई एलिजिबल, ठीक है, आप, मैं, हमारे जैसे जितने भी लोग एलिजिबल है जॉब के लिए, कुछ ऑलरेडी जॉब में है एंड वो सेटिस्फाइड है, ठीक है, तो कोई जो नया बिजनेस होगा जो सेटअप करना चाहता है या कोई पुराना बिजनेस जो नया प्रोजेक्ट डालना चाहता है, उनको लोग कहाँ से मिलेंगे? उनको उस पर्टिकुलर जॉब के स्किल सेट वाले लोग कभी मिलेंगे ही नहीं, राइट? सो दिस इज अ प्रॉब्लम इन द इकोनॉमी. यू कैन नॉट अचीव 100% एम्प्लॉयमेंट, राइट? सो देयर हैज टू बी समवन हु शुड बी अनएम्प्लॉयड so that this cycle continues, right? I hope this is clear. Then next is high growth of inflation, right? What is high growth of inflation? See, when people have money in their hand, लोगों के पास जब बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा रहता है, ठीक है, the valuation of the money comes down. Maybe the purchasing power is going up, that is a fact, but the valuation of money is coming down. And when it is coming down, the demand of certain goods will shoot up, whereas the supply won't. And when there is a mismatch, it will lead to inflation, right? Then too much economic prosperity is also not good. See, too much economic prosperity, what kind of economics we are studying, where we are trying not to achieve 100% economic prosperity, right? So that is also not good. Next, if this is the situation in the economy, what needs to be done? Reduce subsidy. When you reduce this subsidy, money flowing out from the government to the people will come down. Less liquidity in the market, people will have less money in their hands, people will spend less, and the economy will slowly come down. So that's the cycle behind reducing subsidy. Then increasing the taxes. Obviously, if I have personal disposable income at an higher than optimum level, I will spend more. So what government can do to reduce that? Government can't decrease my salary, right? Government can only enforce higher taxes so that my extra income from the personal disposable income goes to that taxes. So less money in my hands in that way. So this is what increasing taxes. Then pay debt. During this cycle, any government would try to repay its debt, because government will have, because see, when the people in the economy have higher income, obviously the government has it, because people would be spending more, so more of indirect taxes to the government. People would have higher income, see more of direct taxes to the government. So understand this cycle, right? So using that extra money, government can pay the debts that it have, right? Let's move further and understand what it is in terms of definition. The government begins collecting more taxes and reduce spending to keep investment prices down and to raise the unemployment rate. The economy needs a certain amount of unemployed workers for business to hire. If companies can't find workers, production growth slows down. That is what I have already explained you. I would repeat it here. Now, let us see the relation between this thing. So what is the relation? The relation is opposite. The government should reduce the spending and the government should increase the taxes, right? I hope explanation is not needed. I have given just a minute back. And what this is known? So this is known as contractionary fiscal policy, right? So what was expand? Expand was this, right? Now you have to contract. You have to सब चीज़ों को समेट लेना, ऐसा बोलते हैं ना, समेट लेना. जब आप खुले हाथ से स्पेंड कर रहे थे, इट वॉज एक्सपेंशनरी. जब आप खुले हाथ से स्पेंड कर रहे थे, इट वॉज एक्सपेंशनरी fiscal policy. And when you the opposite of it is contractionary fiscal policy, right? Now with this we have completed number 3, that is type of fiscal policy. Now let us see what are the tools of fiscal policy. So this is again not much here, we have already seen. Still let me collate it for you so that it becomes easy for you to understand. So tools are taxation. If they want to increase the liquidity in the market, means increase the money flow in the market, they should, what they should do with the direct and indirect taxes? Just think. I am giving a pause so that you can think. Yes, let me explain. So government should, if they want to increase the money supply, right, increase the liquidity, then what they should do with the direct taxes? They should reduce the taxes, right? So when they reduce the taxes, obviously people will have more money in their hands. And what should they do with this spending? If they want to increase the liquidity, that is what I wrote, right? They should run the welfare program, they should give subsidy, they should run, they should give, right? They should give subsidy. I hope this is clear. Now let's see the opposite one. Now what if they want to decrease the money supply? Don't get confused. In last one I wrote liquidity and here I am writing money supply. Both mean same, right? So what they should do with the taxation? If they want to decrease the money supply, they should increase the direct tax, they should increase the indirect tax, so that I will have to spend, you will have to spend more money in buying goods and services, in giving direct taxes to the government. Less money into the hands of people means government is decreasing the money supply. Then what should happen with the spending? They should reduce the subsidy, right? Because when they give subsidy, we have more money in our hand. But here I am asking about to decrease the money supply. So to decrease the money supply, they should reduce the subsidy. And should they run the welfare program? Absolutely not. Not at all required, because people are already prospering in this situation where people have more money in their hands, right? So I hope this is also clear. Now by this we have completed this. Now let's see the important part of the lecture, that is what's the current affair related to it. Now what is the fiscal position of India at present? So the fiscal deficit decreased to 9.2% of GDP compared to the earlier envisaged target of 9.5%, right? So earlier it was 9.5% targeted, but it decreased to 9.2. What do we mean by that? Means it's good, right? So this is something good we can see with the help of data. Now the improvement came on the back of higher taxes earning in the last 2 quarters of which year we are going to see next. But you know, we have come across a different word. What is fiscal deficit? Now, what is fiscal deficit? Let's understand that. See, if you can see this, I mean, things will become easy. But if you're someone who is understanding Hindi, there is a saying in Hindi, Amdani Athanni Kharcha Rupiya. It means if you are earning 50 paisa and if you are spending 1 rupees, means you are at deficit, right? And fiscal deficit means the same. The government of India earns lesser than it spends. Now you might be wondering where this extra money comes from, right? So this comes from borrowing. Who borrows in the favor of governments? The Reserve Bank of India borrows by issuing bonds or treasury bills, you can see, right? So that's another point of discussion. We'll not discuss it here. ठीक है, समझ में आया? गवर्नमेंट क्या करता है? बोरो करता है थ्रू रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एंड वो डेफिसिट्स को फंड करता है. इट फंड्स इट डेफिसिट थ्रू बोरोइंग्स. नाउ लेट अस मूव अहेड एंड let us see the first thing. The improvement came on the back of higher tax earning, gross tax revenue in the last 2 quarters. From where? Now see. Higher tax earning in the last 2 quarters helped lower the FY21 fiscal deficit. Means financial year 21 fiscal deficit. So if you see, first of all, what is financial year 21? So when did it started? Financial year 21, it started 1st April 2022, 31st March 2021, right? So this is the period. During this quarter means, so this is the period, April, May, June. During this quarter, the tax collection was only 2.7 trillion, right? 2.7 trillion. Then in quarter 2, it 4.5 trillion. See, this was the period of lockdown, right? So that is the reason it was so less. Then quarter 3, it's 6.2 trillion. Then during the last quarter, it's 6.9. So you can see this last 2 quarters were very good. So last 2 quarters were very good. So if you see, can you see what is the movement from here to there? So if you, even if you draw a line, it would be a slope line. So this slope shows that the last 2 quarters of the financial year 21 were very good in terms of tax collection, right? Now the question is, from where these taxes are coming? I mean, so there are multiple taxes, right? From where these taxes are coming? Let's see. So these taxes are coming from the direct taxes. Now see, if you see this brown color, first one, it is financial year 20. If you see financial year 21, this yellow, that's revised estimate, RE, and if you see light gray, so I think you would see this as white, so no worries, you will see it as financial year 21. Now see, from where it is coming? It is coming from direct taxes, and the most important to note here is the revised estimate. If you see, revised estimate for the direct tax were 9.05, but actually it came 9.38, right? So you can see the difference in the graph, it's up. Then if you see custom duties, the estimates were 1.12 trillion, right? But it came as 1.35 lakh crore. Again more. So same happened with the excise duty. The estimate were less, but in actual terms it came in higher number than what it was estimated. Same happened with GST as well, CGST, and the same happened with GST as well, right? So I hope you are getting the point. In the first slide, what we have seen, that the taxes in the last 2 quarters were very good, right? And in the second slide, what we have seen, from where these funds are coming. Let's move further and see. Taxation has become more inequitable. So what is the meaning of inequitable? It's unfair. Why? Why it's unfair? Now understand why this is unfair. What are indirect taxes? From where it is collected, right? So indirect taxes are collected from each and every product that we buy or use. Yes, there are certain products that are completely tax free, zero GST. It's there, but most of them are under the ambit of GST, with petroleum product being under the VAT, old VAT system, value added tax system, right? So every common man, be it the richest person of India or be it the poorest person of India, right? If they are buying a packet of milk and if it attracts GST, they are paying it. If they are buying any petroleum product, if that is attracting VAT, they are paying it. Now see, don't you think it's unfair? How? Because here, when the direct taxes were high, people who were eligible, who can pay, were paying, and this gap shows that. But this opposite gap shows the unfairness, because when the indirect taxes goes up by the direct taxes, this does mean that every person in India is being taxed at higher price, because there are many people who are not into the ambit of direct taxes, right? So the more the gap, the more the numbers. Getting my point? The more the gap, the more the numbers. So there are not many people who are into the direct ambit of direct taxes, who are not eligible as per the law to pay direct taxes, but they are paying the indirect taxes in terms of goods and service they are using. So this is what it says about taxation has become more inequitable. This means unfair, right? Then let's move forward and let's understand next. Now, before we begin, what is disinvestment? So disinvestment is not giving up the ownership, right? So you should never correlate it with giving up the ownership. Disinvestment is selling a portion of that particular company. The ownership still lies with the person who is holding at least 51%. If it is Government of India, in our examples case, yes, the ownership still is with Government of India, right? So let's say Government of India holds a company and the shareholding is at 90%. The valuation of the company is rupees 100. The Government of India is the owner of rupees 90, right? Let's say Government of India wants to do disinvestment for 20%, right? For 20%. This means the Government of India will reduce its stake of rupees 90 to minus 18. So 90 minus 18 is 72. So the new stake after disinvestment would be 72%, right? So this is what disinvestment means. Disinvestment in no way is giving up the ownership, as long as the government is not willing to give up below 51%. So if the Government of India is giving up its shareholding below 51%, it means that the ownership has gone. They are a minority stakeholder, but until and unless they are at 51% or above, they are the owner of that particular company. The only thing they are doing is, at current valuation, they are just selling a portion of that company and raising some fund. This is known as disinvestment. So if you see, so there are three datas. This orange one is budget estimate, the blue one is revised estimate, the red one being the actuals. So if you see financial year 18 and financial year 19, so whatever they have estimated, revised, they have received more. The government have received more. So this being the exception year. But if you see financial year 17, they have received less. And if you see continuously from financial year 20 to till, so it's 22, it's currently running, no data is available as of now, not even one quarter has ended. Okay, now if we see financial year 20 and 21, the estimation was much higher, but they have received very less amount from this investment, right? So this is again a contributor to the fiscal deficit, because while giving out the budget, the finance minister have calculated this amount to calculate the fiscal deficit. I mean, this amount has been added to the budget and then the fiscal deficit has been calculated, right? But if you see the actual number, they haven't received that amount. This means what? The fiscal deficit will go up, right? The fiscal deficit will go up, and that is what happened. Let's move further and see number 5. What is it? Capex. So what is Capex? See, Capex is nothing but capital expenditure. So this is a short form to capital expenditure. What is capital expenditure at the first place? What is capital? Let us understand. See, Government of India spends in many different forms, right? So whatever capital they are creating, now what is capital? Let's go back to accounting. What is capital goods for you, for me, right? Now see, what is capital goods for me? This remote I am holding, this pen I am holding, this board, because I am employing all this, the camera in front of me, right? So all this I am employing to earn my bread and butter, right? So these are capital to me. So these are not goods of luxury to me, right? So these are not goods that I use it for my personal level. These are the goods that I use to earn money, right? So this is known as capital goods. So everything that you employ to earn is your capital, right? So what is capital for government? Maybe government build road, right? And to build road, government would need machineries, the JCB machine, the Caterpillar machines, and many other different sets of machines. Government will buy all this, right? What are this? These are capital expenditure. These are not expenditure on other part, because by employing all these machineries, Government of India look forward to build the road, right? So these are capital expenditure. I hope this is also clear. Now if you see in financial year 2016, right? So this is 2016, the capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP, right? As a percentage of total expenditure, sorry, it's not GDP, as a percentage of total expenditure, it was 14.1%. But you see the decline, if I draw a graph, the slope is downward slope. So this means continuously there was a decline. In financial year 21, it is just 12.1%. It's just 12.1%. It's coming down. So do you think it's good? Absolutely, it's not good. So capital creation should be there. The more you spend on the capital goods, the more your chances to earn higher revenue becomes good, right? But let me tell you, this data is in percentage, right? So if you look at it, then your assumption is this. But you will have to think on other part in absolute numbers, right? In absolute numbers, financial year 21, it was more than what was in financial year 16. Let's move. Like if you see, if you go back to history and see, the percentage of agriculture in GDP was way much higher in terms of percentage in 60s and 70s. But if you see today, it's much below than that. But if you see the absolute number, it has grown many times, more than 100 times it has grown, right? So whenever you are writing an answer and the data, if it is in percentage, do think of this. Now let's move further and look at it. What is fiscal deficit? So after the second wave, so which has recently peaked and now it has come down, that's good for us. Yes, after the second wave, government may find it difficult to stick to its financial year 22 fiscal data, because as per the budget estimate, it was 6.8. So this is an objective question you can get. What is the budget estimate? So it's 6.8. The scale rating has said that it will be somewhere around 7.6, and the fifth solution has said that somewhere it will be around 8.3, right? So I hope this is clear. Now let us see some important factors, right? So in budget, there are almost this kind of heads. So this is total revenue, this is total expenditure. कितना पैसा आया, कितना पैसा गया, उसका हिसाब, ठीक है. Total, in total receipt there is revenue receipt, revenue कितना इनकम हुआ है और कितना कैपिटल रिसीप्ट है, मीन्स प्रॉफिट वाला पार्ट, राइट, प्रॉफिट वाला पार्ट. एंड ऑन अकाउंट ऑफ रेवेन्यू अकाउंट एक्सपेंडिचर, रेवेन्यू अकाउंट पे कितना हुआ है एंड कैपिटल अकाउंट पे कितना हुआ है, ठीक है. हम बहुत, वी विल नॉट सी इन दिस इन मच डिटेल, वी विल ओनली अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट फिस्कल डेफिसिट इज, राइट. नाउ अंडर द रेवेन्यू अकाउंट there is tax, there is non-tax, and under the capital receipt there is recovery of loans, लोन का पैसा वापस आया, that is a profit, right. Disinvestment, that is also a capital receipt. Then borrowings, and here there are other item as well. So I have not mentioned in much detail, I have only mentioned what I need to explain is revenue deficit. What is revenue deficit? Now see, revenue deficit is this revenue deficit. So what will come under revenue deficit? Revenue receipt, right? Revenue, so let me write it here, revenue deficit, RD. I am mentioning it as RD equal to what it would be, revenue receipt minus revenue receipt minus revenue expenditure on account of revenue expenditure. This is known as, means this one and this one will give you revenue deficit, right? But what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is, so what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is this one, revenue receipt plus recovery of loans plus disinvestment minus total expenditure. You got it? So revenue receipt plus recovery of loan plus disinvestment minus total expenditure is your fiscal deficit. So I hope this is clear. If it is not clear, watch it once again, things will get clear. Now we have completed this part also. Now let's move further and see our last section, right? So please do visit our website, that is crackgradeb.com, where you will find RBI Grade B, SEBI Grade A, IRD Assistant Manager, NABARD Grade AB, FSI Technical Officer and UPSC EPFO Enforcement Officers Examination course. And just to mention that these are some of the economical course that you can buy from Crack Grade B, which has mocks as well. For NABARD Grade A is just for 2499, and for NABARD Grade B including mocks is just 3599. So if you are following Crack Grade B, you have seen the kind of result that we have generated. So in that aspect, this is something very economical course you can purchase. Do visit up. Please subscribe to this channel to stay updated. Thank you so much. Thank you and happy learning.